Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to Video Game Talk.
Video Game Talk! We are angry! Well, we're not that angry.
Are we angry?
No.
Oh, I missed the memo on us getting angry. Never mind, we're angry! Get out of here! What is going on? Ah! Oh, you were kidding.
Yeah, well, okay.
Okay.
There's plenty of things to be angry about, but, you know, we will try to be as neutral as possible on
yeah.
things.
There's so much anger and hate in the world, you know, we try to present things objectively, even though people are like, you know, we were just talking before we went online about how fandoms like to take people and put them on pikes.
Wow.
Yes, like to take them and parade around effigies of people they think are destroying their fandom. And I just maybe think, hear me out on this. It alienates your fandom a little bit.
So a few things to talk about today. The first thing we're going to talk about is Disney possibly taking the Star Wars license away from EA. It's been a big buzzword on the internet.
Yeah, more so, yeah, it was really peaked right when Battlefront 2 came out because people were like, this might be the last straw. This might be it.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about that in a minute, and then later we're going to talk about the Secret of Mana remake.
Secret of Mana
reviews are coming, and guess what? Well, we'll talk about it later.
Yeah, for sure.
And then lastly, we'll say that, once again, this is Welcome to Video Game Talk. We'll talk for a cool 40-45 minutes, sometimes longer, and then save the last 10 to 20 minutes for your live questions right here in the live YouTube chat. Yeah. If you're not watching this live, go ahead and leave a comment below, and we will get back to you as soon as possible.
We do look at those. Yeah, like just because you're not in a part of the live audience doesn't mean you won't reap the benefits of some exchange with us. Also, the Discord exists. If you're interested, please make your intent known, and we will get you invited.
That's correct. And, you know, it is funny because we are going to be talking a little bit about Star Wars, and, you know, usually we save Star Wars stuff for a Star Wars hour, but Star Wars is also video games, so Video Game Talk, there's a little bit of crossover there. But hey, if you haven't subscribed to the Star Wars Network yet, I highly suggest you do that. There are links all over the Rajavers channel to the right if you're on the actual channel, and there are several videos you can go back and watch that'll lead you directly to that. And then the description of this video, when it's published, I'll put a link as well. But hey, Star Wars Network. And, you know, there's a couple other channels that kind of sound like Star Wars Network. Just make sure you subscribe to the one with my face everywhere. Come on. All right.
You should be familiar with how Rich Alvarez brands himself at this point. It's his face everywhere and his name everywhere.
And last but not least,
gentlemen.
Last but not least, if you are watching this live, don't forget that, again, we save comments to the end. But if you absolutely have to have your question answered immediately, Super Chat, as always, is an option. We'll have to answer it if you Super Chat. Okay. First topic, EA. What's going on? EA is kind of being like, I don't know. They're trying to deny it because, you know, they've got the guys that developed the Titanfall games developing a third-person shooter, and they're trying to rush that demo out as fast as possible to prove to Disney that, like, yes, please, let us keep the license. But as per the contract that Disney's had with EA for the last 4 or so years, Disney has the right to take that license away from EA at any time, and now the rumor mill's going, they're talking to Ubisoft, they're talking to Activision Blizzard. Garrett, what do you think about Ubisoft or Activision Blizzard? Because, you know, as of a few years ago, Activision and Blizzard are the same company, yada yada. What do you think about them taking over the license?
Well, at this point, there's a lot of layers to this. And sorry, I was reading comments and I totally blanked. To answer the question for Hockey Song, no, this is a Rich Alvarez channel show. We're intending everything here is very deliberate. Anyway, to actually answer your question, there's a few layers to this. One, there's the layer of does EA games or just should continue EA games continue to have the license? I think you and me are both in the resounding department of like, no, I don't see in regard if we just were like, you know what, Battlefront 2 is a fluke, let's keep on going. I see things becoming very consistent in that regard.
It is painfully excuse me, it is painfully obvious that people are upset with the EA Star Wars games.
Right. At this point, I think the worst thing that everybody involved could do is keep things exactly the way they are. I think that is the worst outcome. I feel varying levels of success and greed about, you know, some of the other ones, but at this point in my mind, the worst thing that can outcome is nobody changes anything.
To me, it's just, it wouldn't be that bad if EA produced more than just Battlefront, you know? Like, it's like we got Battlefront a couple years ago, and then we got Battlefront 2 2 whole years later, and that's all they've really produced.
Yeah.
And, you know, if I was saying, I think I was saying this yesterday on the Star Wars Hour also, if EA had you know, gotten ahead with their like more development teams and actually produced like 3 or 4 good Star Wars games a year, then whatever with the loot boxes on Battlefront 2 would have been like, well, Battlefront 2 has those loot boxes, but the story mode's pretty good, and then they've also got this game, and this game that are pretty good, so we'll forget it. But because it's only Battlefront and it's got those DLC and loot box problems, that's what clouds everybody.
This very likely, more so than anything else, this very likely is just going to be how things are until something changes. It's going to be another formulaic release. With another cash grab associated with it. And again, I'm fine with the idea that video games have downloadable content. I'm down with the idea that people can contribute revenue to increase the revenue stream there to continue content after release. I'm good with that.
And I thought the story mode in Battlefront 2 was good.
It was.
It wasn't maybe the greatest single-player Star Wars experience, but again, if this was 1997 and there was no online, there was no loot boxes, it was just that story mode, people would be like, yeah, that's a pretty decent Star Wars game.
That's an okay Star Wars
But
game.
instead, we are living in 2018 where people are like, gotta have my multiplayer, and I gotta complain about 20 things about it.
Yeah, and not only that, but multiplayer is a big important thing for a lot of people.
As I complain about it,
I don't want to go into this in depth because we've done it in so many other iterations of this show. But again, it could be summarized very quickly that all of my problems associated with the loot box system came down to the fact that multiplayer was the real casualty there. The idea that, like, if it were cosmetics or story mode additions or, you know, some things that people could participate in at will, then I would feel differently. But it was literally multiplayer, literally access to characters. Core points of the game were just behind paywalls.
Yeah.
Very transparently didn't need to be that way, especially when they had so many opportunities to introduce cosmetics.
Right.
People would have gone crazy for that, but it was just a non-option.
So, long story short, overwhelmingly, EA kind of fudged it with Battlefront 2. So, EA, I think we're gonna hear an official announcement within the next month or two that Disney has pulled EA out.
Right.
So, again, the rumors that they're looking at Ubisoft.
I think they'll probably. I don't think they'll revoke the license for EA. I just think they'll revoke the exclusivity.
Exclusivity. That could be possible, too.
I think we're going to see the idea that EA is going to continue to make Star Wars games. I think that will be the outcome of this negotiation. But I think we're going to start to see that EA isn't the only producer.
Right. That's all. Yeah, that's definitely within the realm of possibility.
And I will say, I am okay with that. I am okay with that. I don't need them to go burn and never create another Star Wars game before. Because, again, the main reason that they can do so much damage is because they're the only ones producing Star Wars games right now. Obviously, I want to play Star Wars games. I need to play Star Wars games. You know, it's like a big part of, you know, it's this whole subgenre of things that I really, really enjoyed typically. And I hate the idea that going forward, the only ones I'm going to be able to play and the only ones I'm going to be able to look forward to are EA ones.
I will continue to say that I think that Disney made the mistake of licensing it out. Yeah. I really think they should have just beefed up LucasArts and had LucasArts continue to be the publisher of Star Wars games. Because, man, under LucasArts, I mean, you could say what you say about LucasArts during the later years, but, man, especially in the 90s, you know, Secret of Monkey Island and, you know, Shadows of the Empire. So, like, even the non-Star Wars games, like I said, Secret of Monkey Island, like, LucasArts produced excellent content.
Oh, yeah, they ran the show for a minute there.
There was hits and misses, certainly, but I really think Disney should have just pumped money into LucasArts. You know, there was some problems on the staff, apparently. Get rid of those problems on the staff. Get some new developers in and just have it all self-contained. Giving the license out to anyone, I think, is a bad idea, especially EA, because, you know, but
yeah,
that's all I'm saying. I know that they won't probably at this time, but
I actually fundamentally disagree with that.
Okay,
what it's worth.
That's fine.
And well, no, allow me to make my case in the most friendly way I can. But the idea being that, like, to bring a game development studio back from the dead is not like just something that is just accomplished per se.
No.
Yeah, there's not a lot of the intrinsic talent out there is contained within certain, you know, development studios as they are. You see a lot of the same teams succeeding over and over again, and you see a lot of people who formulaically have a great wraparound on that. LucasArts, unfortunately, hadn't been successful for a long time.
Yeah.
We had this promise, this looming light on the horizon in the form of 1313, and that was really good. But we never got anything more than like a, you know, just a very, very surface level glance at that.
There was a small tech demo where it was like even before they put Boba Fett as the main character. It was rough. And I'll admit,
I just mean I think that's it's I've said this before that I think it's really easy to put 13-13 up us. I'm like the one that got away.
Yeah,
it's really good. When in reality, it could have been a disaster. It could have been, you know, but we'll never know.
My wanting LucasArts back is more, I'll admit, more of a fanboy dream than like I've actually logically thought about, you know, conclusion.
It's the best thing that feels the best. The idea is like, here's LucasArts making Star Wars games again. It just feels good to older Star Wars fans in a world where, you know, so much of our uncertainty with the series involves is like, who's in control right now? Who's doing this? Where's the crew? Where's the just creative centerpiece lie? So as a result, we're looking for like that consolidation. Makes a lot of sense. But I don't think I'm on board with the idea that LucasArts, at least in its current form, is dead.
Okay. So let's assume the rumors are true, and EA. I know that you think that it could be possible. It could be possible that EA could hold on to a little bit of that. You know,
I think at the end of the day, they're going to continue making Star Wars games, just not exclusively.
Okay. For the sake of conversation, though, let's assume that a different company will be taking over completely.
Right. Now,
who should that company be? Again, the rumors say Ubisoft and Activision/Blizzard. As I've said in previous videos, I would have really liked Bethesda to be up there. That's not what the rumors are, but hey, those are just rumors, guys. If we're talking like the whole realm of possibilities, Bethesda should be a company that Disney looks at because they had some excellent numbers with you know, Fallout 4, and even Rockstar with, you know, their success, especially Grand Theft Auto 5, I believe is still the #1 selling game of all time. Why did they look at Rockstar?
Not only that, Rockstar's poised to have a very good year if Red Dead Redemption 2 is what everybody thinks it is.
But of course, what I think is probably Bob Iger's looking at the numbers, but then also looking at like, oh, well, Bethesda and Rockstar, they don't necessarily make the most family-friendly content.
Right. Certainly there's an at surface level sort of, there's an at surface level sort of agreement, and like the idea like, Disney of anybody would probably look, it's like, most of your success has been in M-rated games.
Yeah. And even though Call of Duty are always M-rated too, but it would be hard for Bob Iger to ignore those consistent, because they have a new Call of Duty every year. You know, it'd be hard for him to ignore that. And then I'm sure they're also looking, Ubisoft always has a new Assassin's Creed every year. I think the reason why it came down to Activision and Ubisoft is because they both have these big series that they consistently, and you could say, you know, Assassin's Creed and Call of Duty, they're not the best games ever made, but they make one every year to a certain degree of quality. So what Disney is obviously trying to do is get away from the one game every 2 or 3 years format and get back onto the at least one big Star Wars game a year. It doesn't have to be the best Star Wars game, but at least it'll be made once a year. That's what I think that they're looking at right now.
Right.
That's what they're gravitating
Which I don't love, honestly. I don't want... I mean, we already have EA. We've already seen what, like, a formulaic, you know, kind of very safe, close to the center Star Wars release is going to be. And at this point, you know, we're a little saturated with Star Wars shooters. I really want to see the rest of everything else come into play. You know, really the Star Wars games found success in their early days in X-Wing and TIE Fighter. Those were like the big sellers of, you know, like right out the gate.
Yeah, in the early 90s, and then Rogue Squadron later, too.
Yeah, of
Love
course.
Rogue Squadron as well. But hey, you know me, I'm a sucker for the 90s. I love my Shadows of the Empire, you know. It had shooting levels and space levels, you know.
Yeah, that just is what it is. So, yeah, there's a lot of arguments here as far as, like, who should take it. I am less down on Ubisoft. Yeah, or I should say I'm more critical of Ubisoft in this case. But it's like... You know, that's purely speculative. I have a long-running grudge with Uplay and the Uplay platform. So,
What's fun? It's hilarious because both Ubisoft and Blizzard have their own, like, separate from Steam, like, platforms.
I know, but Battle.net, sorry, Blizzard app as they call it now, don't like that change.
Battle.net forever.
Yeah, Battle.net has, not only that, but Battle.net's been around forever. Yeah. It makes sense that Battle.net is its own platform. Battle.net, like, in many arguments, transcends Steam.
Yeah, I think my first installation for Battle.net was Warcraft 2.
Yeah.
Like,
also, Battle.net isn't crashing all the time. It isn't resting computer resources that don't need to be there. I'm not locked out of participating in games that I bought on Steam because I literally can't get Uplay to run. You know, like, there's a lot of just technical barriers that are there, and I don't want to put up with that again. But I'm open to the idea that we could see some money shift around, you know, in the extent of the agreement for an Ubisoft argument. And I'm not opposed to Ubisoft taking it over. I, however, am in support of Activision and Blizzard taking it over. Activision and Blizzard really are far more consistent than Ubisoft are.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways. Now, that being said, Assassin's Creed is this long-running game and, has been a hallmark of the centerpiece of the last, decade and a half of, major games in a lot of big ways. And they're they have their ups and downs, but they're consistently pretty enjoyable and have a pretty great fan base. I don't want to fault Ubisoft for that.
Right.
But, and, honestly, if we saw an Assassin's Creed game in a similar, or a Star Wars game in a similar light to an Assassin's Creed game, certainly the teams out there exist. Certainly the resources out there exist. So
I would have to go, out of the two, I would also have to go with Activision Blizzard, mostly for the Blizzard side of it. I think that's just nostalgia from, I've way more enjoyed games coming from Blizzard than Ubisoft or Activision. And, just childhood, Warcraft, StarCraft, World of Warcraft, Diablo. Nobody talks about Diablo anymore, but Diablo 2, Diablo 3. Blizzard has consistently made good games, still making good games. We playing Heroes of the Storm.
Yeah.
Overwatch, obviously. It's Blizzard. Blizzard is it's here. It's here. Blizzard is here. But
yeah, Blizzard doesn't have a lot of experience outside of their own EPs, though.
Yeah.
Which is almost kind of a good thing, because you don't see a lot of gaming companies really being consistent on their original EPs. But hey, here's an example. Blizzard has kind of done 4 things really well since its inception.
Yeah.
And that's fine. So I would feel really confident if they released oh yeah, we're going to see a new Star Wars MMO and it's being handled by Blizzard. Boom! Victory! We did it, guys! Sort of thing. Or oh, we're going to see a Star Wars that's in a competitive MOBA environment, or an arena style, third person game. Then boom, we did it! Great, sweet. Let's say I guess they kind of did, they made what is it? Activision particularly was behind Destiny 2, which wasn't terrible. It's kind of short and but certainly unique in a lot of ways. If I saw another game like that, I was like, oh yeah, multiplayer environment, large adventure game. Sweet, we did it. Woo! Star Wars card game. Not really a fan. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
And sadly, it would probably...
Force Stone.
If Blizzard had to make a Star Wars game, I think they could do it well. Unfortunately, just because of, just the way that trends and the way that Blizzard works, the way that, again, Activision Blizzard, they are the same company, but they still very much have their own development teams. I really think that whatever Star Wars game is going to happen, it's going to happen on the Activision side. That's just what my brain is telling me. So,
Activision is the safer choice, certainly. But yeah. I also know that Bethesda is both of our first choices.
I don't want Call of Duty with Star Wars skins.
No.
That's not what I don't want.
Also, we kind of have that. We kind of already have that.
Yeah, so I think that it's hard to say. I would want them to develop something really unique, but I know Disney is gonna be like, oh, we want Call of Duty Star Wars. They're gonna do the same thing.
It's can you take your objectively acclaimed success over here, and otherwise they will. I will say this: they will definitely be interested in doing that if they revoke the license from EA.
Oh yeah.
I think in a reality where EA can continue to make Battlefront games and continue to do that, they'll be less interested in well, we've already kind of filled that niche, and other shooters just gonna compete with EA's shooter, and then at that point, what are we doing for the license kind of thing? But in a reality where EA is completely kicked to the curb, they're gonna need to continue the Star Wars shooters. At which point, the Call of Duty team is a
Call of the Force.
Yeah,
Jedi duty.
So Jedi duty, Christ. So that's all good.
Okay, so I think basically, guys, that's pretty much all we're gonna rant about that. So let us know in
I want to know. I want to know in the comments. We're gonna look at this. I want to know what's the company that you see out there that is existing and doing a thing, even for a tiny little company that no one knows
it doesn't
about.
have to be those two companies. What company do you think should make Star Wars games, and what do you want to see?
Yeah,
let us know.
More shooters, more RPGs, that sort of thing.
We'll ask again at the end, but just maybe type it now so you remember it later. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyways, moving on. So, guys, we have hit rock bottom at Square Enix. I know I complain a lot about Square Enix. Final Fantasy. As a kid, Final Fantasy was my favorite series. Not so much anymore. Although I did enjoy 15. They have not made a solid Final Fantasy game since maybe 10.
Yeah.
Basically, ever since Hinobu Sakaguchi left the company, it's been all shite except for maybe 15. So, this is not making me feel better about the Final Fantasy VII Remake, because they put out this Secret of Mana remake that they announced only, 6 months ago, or they announced it at E3, I think, last year. And it's oh, here's a remake of Secret of Mana. And I was worried because after, Final Fantasy VI and then Chrono Trigger, Secret of Mana is like right up there with like the greats of the Super Nintendo RPGs. So we have this remake.
It's an important bastion for a lot of people. I know, on average, with our viewership, a lot of you guys are going to be a little on the young side to relate to Secret of Mana, but understand that Secret of Mana is very much a piece of video game history.
Secret of Mana was a great game. It has one of the most beautiful overworlds, a fantastic soundtrack, maybe only second to Chrono Trigger.
Yeah, one of the best, inarguably.
It is a fantastic game. They have remade it, and it's kind of a sham. The graphics kind of don't work. It looks like, I want to say, like,
don't work. I mean, they're good, but like,
to me, it looks like it looks like when they remade Final Fantasy IV for the 3DS. It looks like 3DS graphics almost, maybe a little bit better than that.
Yeah, I mean, they're high contrast, very cartoony color stuff. You know, that jazz.
The dubbing they added voices, and the dubbing doesn't quite work. Everything looks stilted. There, you know, the few problems that the NES game had, the Super NES game had, they don't fix. They just add more problems and layers to those problems here. We're looking up here, like the IGN review. They gave it a 7.6 out of 10, which is like good, but not. Nah. And you know, the guy describes it, and we've said this word with that Metal Gear game. They describe it as frustrating, and I'm thinking like, you never want to describe your game as.
I believe you came up with a term associated with this.
Okay, guys. when something looks good but plays horribly, that is extensively polish on bum shoes.
Polish on bum shoes!
But dude, I don't even know if this is polish on bum shoes, dude. This is like shit on bum shoes because I don't even think it looks that good.
There's polish. I mean, like, clearly they went to some extent to like pretty it up and whatnot, but then they like, I don't know, forgot to make the lip syncing work.
Yeah, look, you can even see the little demo video up there. They just talk and their mouths don't even move. They didn't even bother to animate the mouse. It's so sloppy. It's like everything about this remake is just trash. I hope I don't feel this way about the 7 remake too. This is what makes me worried, because looking at just the videos of this, I would easily say if I'm going to play Secret of Mana again, I'm going back to the SNES game because this is crap. So, you know, I know that they're working longer and harder on the 7 remake, but guys, if this is the crap that Square Enix expects us to play, it does not bode well for the future. Yeah. But yeah, for the sake of the joke, polish on bum shoes. It is polish on bum shoes.
Polish on bum shoes.
I give this game a solid polish on bum shoes.
We'll just turn the dial to polish on bum shoes. All right, yeah, and that's a bummer because, you know, well, it's kind of an unnecessary, or it's a, how to say it? An unfortunate product of kind of the remake sort of like trend that we're in right now, where a lot of stuff is there. And a lot of older games, a lot of games that are very close to a lot of people's hearts are seeing you know, like somewhat big budget remakes or remakes into 3D engines or wood polish bum shoes. Yeah, thank you.
That was D-Rock. Yeah. 10 out of 11 wood polish bum shoes.
Wood polish bum shoes. Yeah, so that's all good. Yeah, it just is what it is. But this is, again, problematic because I know there's a few people here, at least a few, that are kind of banking on that Final Fantasy VII remake being pretty good, and I know there's a few people here that are really hoping that Kingdom Hearts 3 is going to come together sometime soon.
And of course, the Final Fantasy VII remake looks pretty, and if that game is bad, then that will be the biggest polish on bum shoes ever.
We're going to take it to we're going to take polish on bum shoes international if that turns out to be good.
Oh man, so yeah, again, you do not want to hear any reviewer say frustrating. Whenever you hear that, it's like, well, because remember guys, at the end of the day, these are games. They're supposed to be fun. If the core of your game is frustrating, then what are you doing?
What are we doing? Yeah, I know. A game like A Secret of Mana can't or shouldn't have to survive, or the remake shouldn't have to survive just on love for the franchise alone.
No.
And I'm looking at the playthrough right here. You know, the frame rate's really nice and whatnot, but like, it just looks weird. It's like there's some textures that are literally look like SNES textures, and then there's other stuff that's very high res and like very good, and it just, I don't know, it's kind of inconsistent. I don't really get it.
Controls are apparently laggy as all hell too. So
that's awful. Literally, how you operate yourself in a video game is if you press a button, guess what? Something happens.
Yeah.
And if you can't get that right, oh man, are we in trouble? I mean, that's maybe okay in like a Civilization game where it's like turn-based and reactions have literally nothing to do with it. And even then, It's deeply dissatisfying.
Guys, you can remake your game. You can replace your shoelaces. You can clean up the polish on that shoe.
Yeah.
You can even put in Dr. Scholl's, but at the end
Dr.
of the day,
Scholl's!
at the end of the day, you're just putting polish on bum shoes. God damn it, just get this game out of my sight.
All right.
That's a resounding polish on bum shoes.
Fair enough. Well, I guess that's... do you have anything else that you want to say there other than just, like, this isn't
Square,
all that...
stop! It's time to stop.
We're counting on you. And we were talking about this the other day. It's like, it's really ironic that Square Enix, really was dying functionally. It was, back in its prior to Final Fantasy days, it was...
Oh, yeah.
It was sliding into the abyss for largely this reason.
Fun little story. I won't go into a whole bit.
Yeah.
It's called Final Fantasy because it was literally going to be their final game. And then, surprise, huge success. And then, oh no, the Final Fantasy movie in 2001 does horribly. They get bankrupt again. Oh no, we have to merge with Square, or with Enix, and they become Square Enix. Oh, then we're doing great again. Kingdom Hearts, Final Fantasy X, and X-2, even though I didn't like X-2, was a huge success. Oh, we're doing great. And then bankrupt again because we keep making poor choices. Maybe it's just time for Square to just die, guys.
I don't know, yeah. I really, I enjoy so much of what they represent and whatnot.
Poor
but again,
choices.
it just seems to me like we've been here before. And I haven't even been alive and cognizant for much of this. So
this would be like, I mean, we always talk about like movies like being remade and they're never as good as the original. Sometimes they're as good when you get the right person. A remake I find is never good if it's done by the person who made the original. And most of the time it's bad when you get a new guy. It's when you get that new guy with new ideas. This is a remake from the same guys with the same ideas and they couldn't even do it as good as they did before. Guys, it's time to stop. And that's all. That's all I want to say about it.
So I really, I don't want to, I can't hope that Square, gets what's coming to them. I can't hope it. Square's been important to a lot of us, but Square has also been kind of fucking with some franchises that they helped us fall in love with and are kind of like now, like,
I can't even scream high enough to express my anger right now. Yeah, that's getting there.
Yeah, all right. Well, I guess we'll move on. Not that we have a ton else to talk about today.
I mean, that was it. I just wanted to bitch about the Star Wars thing. I wanted to bitch about Square, and that's all my bitching for today. I mean, we could talk for an hour about net neutrality, but I don't know if anybody wants to hear that.
Yeah, right. All right, type 1 in the chat if you want to see me. If you want to see me go off on net neutrality.
Mention the Steam Lunar Sale.
I know. I'm gonna talk about Steam Lunar Sale. I'm not actually gonna go off on net neutrality unless all of a sudden my screen is filled with ones, and I'll be like, "All right, listen up. I worked for a telecom. I got inside scoop on this. Let's do this." Then just one. Another one. Trailer Park Samurai 2. Derek O'Connor 1. Okay. That's great. Well, 4 of those votes were Derek, so whatever. Anyway, in the meantime, let's talk about Steam very briefly. Something very near and dear to my heart as primarily a PC guy. So Steam Lunar Sale. It's on right now. How do I know it's on? Because I got an email notification this morning that 25 of the games on my wish list are on sale. That's a lot, considering I have 100 games on my wish list, so for a quarter to it to drop on sale right now, that's good. Now, that being said,
do you want to, say in 2 cents or less what the Lunar the Lunar New Year is?
Oh, the Lunar New Year is Chinese New Year.
Yes. Yes. Just in case anyone didn't know.
Correct, yes.
Hence this sale.
Yeah, which is, it's not as big a deal to us here in the West, with the exception of people who have lineage or strong familial cultural ties to the Chinese culture. But for China, my understanding is this is, and for a lot of just Eastern nations, this is
New Year.
Well, yeah, not only that, but this is like their big holiday. You know how like we always blow out on Christmas?
Yeah, they don't do
obviously,
that
they don't in a lot of nations that don't celebrate Christmas, it's all about New Year's.
In case it wasn't painfully obvious, Christmas is a Western holiday through and through, guys.
Yes.
So yeah, they don't do that over there.
Don't let us be the ones who just told you that for the first time. But surprise. Anyway, Lunar New Year is a big event globally, even if in our little Western bubble here we don't experience it that much. This is a big one. So this sale is going to be a big revenue generator for Steam, and it's going to be a lot of time nationally, internationally, where a lot of games get bought and get purchased and, you know, get all that sort of stuff. And as a result, it's very curious to look at the metadata for what kind of games are getting bought. Because if you look on the Steam top seller charts right now, it's a lot of anime games. It's a lot of games that are, what is it? There's a lot of games for, like, I noticed that a few of those games that are kind of in the same vein of, like, Dynasty Warriors or whatnot, a lot of those PC remakes of that are high in the sales, and a lot of games that obviously take place in more Eastern settings are really, really high right now in the sales. And, you know, that's derivative of the fact that this is mostly a time when, you know, the Eastern consumer base is buying.
Yeah, I definitely think that was on purpose, you know, for the trying to tie it to the holiday and everything.
And that's fine. Yeah, that would make sense. That would actually be, to do anything other than that would be objectively a super dumb business decision.
Yeah, guys, so look at your Steam wallets, your Steam, your saved favorites and everything, your wish list, that's what I wanted to say, and just make sure everything is exactly what you want it to be. You know, there's some great stuff up there. Of course, they have a new excuse for Steam sales all the time, but...
yeah, they obviously do them. Steam sales are a tremendous moneymaker, but that's a good thing, because they've developed like a symbiotic relationship with the gamer community, you know, and it's almost like waiting for Steam sales and understanding the Steam sales was a big part of now how PC people buy games. I want to draw the attention to at least 2 games that are currently kind of on the best sellers of Steam Spy. One of them is a little bit weird because it's Rust. Rust is back in a big way, at least making sales again in a big way, which makes me wonder if it's catching on in the Eastern audiences a little bit more, or if we've seen an update that I am unaware of. So that's all good. Rust, for those of you unfamiliar with Mr. Gary Newman, the creative force behind Gary's Mod, the immensely popular sandbox mod environment for Half-Life in the Source engine, he and his team have moved on to a survival game called Rust. And it has seen a really rocky development history, you know, starting off really big and then falling into obscurity as the player base and the netcode gets really bizarre, and that's kind of where we rested for a long time. And then they forced demographics on players, which was a little bit some people didn't sit well with people as much, but you know, they wanted to create a living server environment. Meanwhile, Rust is up in big sales in a big way, and I'm wondering if it's because content changes or patching has taken off in a big way. Anyway, if you're a fan of Gary's Mod or have ever been a fan of like the sandbox construction environment, go check out Rust, you know, see it. They're going to get it right eventually. It's just a matter of when. We are also seeing Kingdom Come Deliverance is also selling in a big way right now, which, yeah, you probably haven't even heard of because it's mostly popular in Europe. Wow. Kingdom Come Deliverance is a kind of a Skyrim-style RPG set in a very ultra-rigidly medieval environment. Like, not magic, like, not this. Like, it's a historical fiction around Europe. So as a result, weapons play, you know, melee combat, and you know, kind of the dynamics of just fighting are a lot more intrinsic than they would be in Skyrim, where, you know, you're throwing fireballs and fighting dragons. You know, now it's about like siege towers and catapults and, you know, things that, you know, kind of existed in more, you know, regimented senses.
So like, there's not even like elves or anything. It's just men fighting men.
Right. Exactly.
Well, I don't know. It still might be worth checking out. Got to get that Fuzrodo though in there a little bit.
Yeah. Dynasty Warriors 9 on, you know, shot up. What is this? 3,600 owners recently. So that's a big one. Also, that Dragon Ball Z Fighter game is considering to sell well-ish, and my understanding is it's not the perfect fighting game, but probably the best DBZ fighting game that we've seen. If you consider yourself the thing I'll say about the DBZ Fighters game is if you are somebody who considers yourself like a really regimented, like, Street Fighter generation of competitive fighting game fan, then maybe skip over this one, or at least understand that when you're buying it, this is not that.
Sorry, people are saying some crude things about Android 21 in the comments section.
Oh yeah, that's been going on the whole entire stream.
We can't possibly discuss, but
no.
But
don't feed the trolls, Richard. Okay. What was I talking about?
I don't know.
I was talking about Dragon Ball FighterZ.
Yeah, it's a good one.
If it's a good one, yeah, it's fun. If you're just looking to have fun with a freaking shooter game, if you're just like, oh yeah, I want to go on, I want to pretend I'm a Dragon Ball Z character and bash everyone's shit in and play through this fictitious DBZ environment.
It's
sweet.
the best of that.
Yeah,
it's the best of that.
Go do that. But if you're looking for like, you know what, I'm looking for a game that's going to redefine the competitive shooter and like really, really push the skill ceiling a little bit higher, don't expect that. It's not that. So that just is what it is. I haven't been super in love with Dragon Ball Super, but it does for sure have its moments. And I'm pleased to see that that's integrated tastefully.
I'll mention this because we don't yet have a dedicated anime talk show, and we probably never will. But
what would we do if we had a dedicated anime talk show?
There's so much anime to talk about.
I know. You know you're not an expert on Eastern culture and how it translates. We would need to get Liz in here. We have a friend who works at Cartoon
Lauren
Network.
Also is big on it. I mean, I love anime, but I'm probably not the authority on it.
No,
but
I would just be like, hey, have y'all seen Cowboy Bebop?
I will say that, like, I do think that they should do the Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood treatment to Dragon Ball Z. It needs a remake that is... I know that there's Kai, but that's really just kind of, deleting scenes and straightening it. I want a complete, ground-up, animated remake of Dragon Ball Z. Back-to-front remake, please. And I think they need to do that with Trigun and a few other shows, too. Because
maybe one that actually paces like a correct anime?
Yeah, because, like, Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood proved that you could remake a show just a few years after the original. And
to resounding success!
Yeah. The original Fullmetal Alchemist show was good, but, it did that thing where it's like, well, the mangas aren't finished yet, so we're going to make up our own bullshit ending, So it made up its own bullshit ending. People were like, well, I'm not really okay with that. So then the author was like, okay, I want to push the studio. Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, and it was great. It was perfect.
Yeah,
60 episodes.
FMA Brotherhood was really good, and I haven't watched it.
That's it. That's all I want to say. That they should just remake Dragon Ball Z. They should remake Dragon Ball also, the original show.
Yeah, right.
And that's it. That's all I was saying. Yeah.
Okay, very good. Yeah, I don't see anything else of like really, really big notoriety that's like on Steam or that's knocking up the ownership tick on Steam in a big way, but. Yeah, we should, excuse me.
Burp.
We should move on. Okay, no worries.
Is it yet time for questions? I know that would be 20 minutes. That would be our longest question session.
But... You know what? Yeah, I certainly have nothing else to talk about, and don't shoot me for saying this, but I'm not super confident in our audience to come up with derivative content on topic questions
now. So, okay, guys, we asked you at the beginning. We'll ask you again first.
Yeah. First up, we're going to ask you a question.
Who should be making the Star Wars games?
Yeah, and what games should they be?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Now, think about those questions.
I'll wait.
Think about those questions while I once again remind you all that we have a new channel called Star Wars Network that you should definitely be jumping on and subscribing to if you're not subscribed to the Star Wars Network.
This is beating it in. It's just beating it in. They know about the Star Wars Network now. They don't. We have some videos, so that's all good. Yeah.
Subscribe!
Yeah, we do way more live content on that channel, actually, and then we have our web series coming up. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
good.
That makes sense.
You're going to want to subscribe because there's a really dope thing coming out tomorrow on that same channel, the Star Wars Network, which I will link as much as I possibly can on every social media I have, but I'm telling you guys, you're going to want to subscribe so you can just see it.
Yeah.
Noon Pacific time. Be there or don't be there. Your choice.
Right.
All right. Has anybody asked a question about Star Wars?
Well, Killer E92 says something curious. He says EA should keep Star Wars.
What? Why?
To which I'm curious. I'm like, why? And do you mean, clarify for me, if you mean EA should have exclusive rights to Star Wars? Or EA should keep Star Wars, but the exclusivity shouldn't be a thing. EA and other studios should be making Star Wars games. Please clarify what you say. And what you're hoping to get out of EA making Star Wars from the future. And hopefully it's not some false flag like, I want Star Wars to burn! Yeah, EA! Keep doing what you're doing! Vroom, vroom, vroom.
So we got a couple things here. D-Rock actually mentioned something we mentioned on Video Game Fights, HD remake of Pod Racing game, the Star Wars Pod Racer.
Wow.
Now this is Pod Racing.
Wow.
Of course that was done back at, LucasArts. Maybe they, that's the one where I'd be like, maybe get Nintendo to do
There is a way to do that super well.
Yeah, there is.
There is a way to do that super well. And that is honestly maybe one of the if EA remade a game, maybe that would be a good one. But then you'd be paying for pod racer parts and shit. So I don't know.
No,
I would really like the opportunity to build a pod racer from the ground up and like tune it and have this like like really it's like there's the racing part of this game, but then there's the making a pod racer part of this game.
That's what maybe if they would allow it or do it, maybe that's the one you give to Nintendo to do because I think Mario Kart 8 is like one of the best like fun
they get it.
like little kart racer games. And
they get it.
Maybe just put the pod racers in there. And then Feathered One says Bethesda, like I always say.
Yeah,
Bethesda,
we're our votes for Bethesda. So
and they
that's
say
a big thing.
Maybe it's a Fallout style set in Tatooine, which is interesting because it's something that I also mentioned. I know we keep going by video game fights, guys. That show doesn't exist anymore. I was suggesting maybe you're Boba Fett, and it's like you're doing all the missions for Jabba because set in that time between obviously way after Episode 2, but before Episode 6 where he dies. Basically he becomes Jabba's bitch and he does Jabba's bidding. He collects Han Solo. He collects, things that people owe to Jabba. But wouldn't it be fun to play as Boba Fett doing all those things for Jabba and you keep getting new missions from Jabba, hunt down this guy, kill this guy, collect this. And then along the way you do all your side quests, So it's like people just pay Jabba because guess what? Boba Fett is a bounty hunter. He'll do anything for money. That I know that sounds pretty standard, but that makes for good RPG play. Like
it's certainly morally ambiguous, sort of gameplay. Because you could put Boba Fett, despite being this thing that we put on a pedestal and whatnot, his the actual reality of his existence in the plot is still relatively unflushed.
Dude, imagine an alternate ending of that game where Han pays you. And you don't take him back to Jabba. You're like, all right, never
the
mind.
non-canon ending that people have Star Wars fans throwing Molotovs at the production audience.
It shows Jabba.
Don't even suggest that there could ever possibly be an alternate ending that infringes with the original trilogy. Oh,
it just shows Jabba in Carbonite.
It'll happen. Jabba and Carbonite. They made him a fountain. They put a fountain out of him. He takes up 7 Carbonite blocks. They needed to pack him up. So he's been stuffed into an ice cube tray.
It's showing everybody in Cloud City just stomping on him, trying to shove him into the Carbonite pit.
It's like a bunch of stormtroopers shooting brooms, just get in there.
It's not exactly like churning butter, guys. Going, get in there. And so
they're we never frozen a hut before. Usually we're freezing people for the huts, but this is totally new.
His tail's still sticking out, moving because it didn't quite fit. Yeah, all that good stuff. Alternate endings. But it would be great to play as Boba Fett in a just open world freaking setting. Probably keep it to one planet, Tatooine, but maybe just a few other little fun things here and there. I know. I feel like open world might break if you have too many planets. It works in Old Republic because it's an MMO and you're doing. You don't actually explore the entire planets in any of those.
You just explore regions, and as we've seen with No Man's Sky, what happens when you try to procedurally fill in content. Although No Man's Sky is not the only game to commit that sin. That goes as far back as Elder Scrolls Daggerfall, probably.
Or if you want to get real creative, you start the game with Boba getting stuck on an unknown planet, and you're the whole game is this new story on this new planet that doesn't have to connect with anything. Whoa, what do you know, guys? Something that doesn't have to connect with anything? What? All right.
Yeah, you're fine. What about the DT Newt is proposing Pandemic Studios.
Ooh.
Pandemic Studios for a Star Wars remake, which I did really like. I'm going to look up Pandemic right now to see the most recent release. Studios. Let's see. They made original Battlefront 2. I remembered that one, but what have they been doing since then? Not a lot.
Do they even exist anymore? I thought that they went bankrupt. Pretty sure they went bankrupt.
Yeah.
Yeah, bankrupt. Their last few games got canceled.
Yeah. Oh, they were going to make the Dark Knight game.
Guys, I'm pretty sure that's a big reason why DICE and EA is doing Battlefront, because Pandemic went under.
They did.
Sorry.
They did, and I think EA played a hand in that, so call it what you will. But, yeah, I mean, I'll take that as the idea that conceptually, the Pandemic team can somehow be brought back from that. And
because
that sounds good.
Black Isle Studios, the original creators of Fallout, Black Isle went bankrupt, but most of those guys moved on to Obsidian, who developed New Vegas. Mm-hmm. So I mean, you can bring developers back to work on a game. It's possible.
Star Wars. I mean, it occurs to me more when I think about it. Star Wars is a tough game to make an environment in because of just how open it is.
That's why you make a new planet. And you set your game on a new planet.
That's right.
And you get your character stranded so he can't leave the planet.
And then
you make yourself a fucking great game that isn't polished on bum shoes. Sorry.
Yeah, that's correct. That's correct. You would, you know, that works so well for Skyrim, and with any big question about, a design of like a future future RPG.
Yeah.
Look at me.
Sorry,
Don't look at the comments.
Sorry, say that again.
Yeah, I was going to say, with all the RPG, you know, sort of, you look at all the RPGs that have been successful, it's because they contained and, like, you know, really flushed out an environment. So I do like your idea. So that's all good. One other, like, one that I wanted to point out, the Feather one, who's been killing it with good questions tonight, asked about an Empire at War expansion. Do you remember Empire at War?
Yeah, I love any RTSs. Empire at War obviously was a really good one. Even if they could, well, they won't release a new expansion of that. Yeah,
right.
Brand new one. I know it would be super niche, but I would. I mean,
I know it's tough. It's a hard sell because RTS games don't sell like they used to.
Do we know how well like the recent like HD res of StarCraft 1 sold and like all that stuff?
Not great.
Not great.
But it was never really intended to be a big seller. They were selling it for $15. It was.
I would say like, I would love a new RTS because I love.
Was it $15 or did I just?
Yeah, I think $15?
So.
I don't know. I love RTSs. I would love it. I would say that's probably not the best selling point though.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it's a business, and they have to go with what's going to sell the best, you know.
Yeah.
So.
That just is what it is. But, you know, let's talk about conceptually just you and me as the people in the room who like RTS games. Oh, yeah, another Star Wars RTS would be great, especially considering Empire at War. Though I wasn't in love with the ground combat. I don't think anybody really was. Like, oh yeah, the ground combat. That's the, you know, that was just kind of a portion of the game that you tolerated.
Yeah, space combat.
To get to the good space combat.
And then the earlier RTS, which was Star Wars Battlegrounds, was very much just a StarCraft clone.
Yes, correct. It was actually an Age of Empires clone.
Oh.
It was actually a direct reskin of Age of Empires 2.
Oh, I guess I can kind of see that as well. Yeah. My favorite Age of Empires was Age of Empires 3 with all their funny quotes. You know, like, we've got to protect those settlers. And, you know, if you, like, press F1, it's like, look at your wallet. That's me on a dollar bill.
Yeah. That was like a game I almost played like 90 times. I confidently think about, like, the day that I play Age of Empires 3? Nope, just going to play 2. Never even end up touching about it. So, that's all good.
No, that's fair. That's fair. Because I think especially, they actually, no, geez, that was a few years ago. They did the HD Age of Empires 2 on Steam. Do you have that?
The HD Age of Empires.
They released an HD pack for Age of Empires 2. It's really good.
Oh no, I didn't do that, but I saw that it exists.
Because I got that a couple years ago when it came out, and then never touched it because I forgot about it.
Yeah.
So if you get it, we could play it as another one of those things that we play sometimes.
Okay, yeah. That being said, I have been playing Wolfenstein, and you do need to play it. It's been really good. I actually bought the first one and went back to it. You might not want to stream it, though.
Oh, no. I know.
It's a little heavy. It's a little heavy duty.
Definitely not. Yeah, because I also, before the second one came out, I went through the first one, too, and there's, like, you know, some sex and some other not okay for stream things.
Infanticide, genocide, definitely an unrelentingly cruel picture of fascism.
Yeah.
Not like, they weren't trying to, like, they were trying to motivate you to kill Nazis. Yeah. So, mission accomplished.
It's like, I was all ready to play number 2 and then got busy with other stuff. So, yeah, I definitely need to jump on that Wolfenstein 2.
Yeah, I'm most of my way through 1 at this point, so we'll see what that goes on with. And then, Featherwood also pointing out that, you know, we've seen some approaching Star Wars total conversion mods, you know, kind of in the works for a few things and whatnot. And, you know, we'll just have to wait and see. I'll bring this conversation full circle and say that, in my humble opinion, all of this conversation, regardless of whether you feel about, you know, like, about the EA thing, or how you feel about loot boxes, or how you feel about, like, the current path of the, you know, development on Battlefront, or how you feel about, you know, the licensing thing, it's clear to me that everybody wants to see more variety in Star Wars games. And it's clear to me that, you know, anybody you talk to, really, you know, generally isn't of the opinion of just like, I would like a new Battlefront every 2 years, please, until I'm dead. Yeah, and that is all that I wish to experience that is Star Wars. Like, I'm not saying that, like, you have to not like Battlefront, but to say that that is the only thing that you want forever, that doesn't in any way represent the average Star Wars fan's experience.
No, I think that's their biggest mistake is they're only looking at numbers like, oh, shooters sell really well, and so that's all they think that we want.
And they do,
No,
and shooters are great.
guys,
I love shooters.
I need my I mean I want shooters, I want good ones, but I also want my pod racing game. I want my deep, Old Republic MMO.
Star Wars is one of the what is it? How do I say? It's like one of those
diverse.
Not diverse, but like I guess RPG ready.
Yeah,
it's like Star Wars is ready for an RPG. It's got all the backstory. It's got this infinitesimal conversation for split offs. It's so no-brainer to like this that an RPG would need to exist.
They could start by just simply retexturing Knights of the Old Republic. I mean, that, as far as I'm concerned, was the perfection of the Star Wars RPG. Of course, I would like to see something like Dark Forces come back, or Jedi Academy, which is actually part of the Dark Forces continuity.
Yeah,
Kyle Katarn and all that. I would also like to see the return of Dash freaking Rendar.
Whether that be,
Rendar. I mean, they should do a full.
I don't know. Canonically, it's getting a little harder and harder to fit him in because other people are starting to be credited for doing things that he did.
The funny thing is, as far as like continuity goes, and they, it's funny because Disney has not even been true to their own continuity because they've already screwed up. They're like, oh, the Phasma comic, never mind, that's not part of it anymore. They suck. All right, so the point is, there hasn't really been a whole lot between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. They've done like some novels that take place, like Aftermath, that have taken place after Return of the Jedi. A lot of the Star Wars comics either take place before or right after A New Hope, so they're trying to like bridge between A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back. They have yet to do much, if anything, that actually takes place between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. Setting up Dash Rendar in the whole Shadows of the Empire story is something that could still be canon and make perfect sense within the current continuity. All you have to do is somewhere in the Solo movie say, hey, because it's in the trailer, I was kicked out of the academy. You were kicked out of the academy with your best friend Dash Rendar. You grew up on Corellia with your best friend Dash Rendar. And then Dash Rendar could show up in a...
Be like, what's up? And people piss and shit. It'd be crazy. Old school fans would be turning over tables.
Oh, I would just...
Philadelphia Eagles level rioting in the streets, except there'd be lightsabers.
See, I don't care even if the Han Solo movie sucks total ass. If Dash Rendar is mentioned, I will have a heart attack from excitement. It's going to be like that. So, just please bring Dash back and make do it. I think that's what Dave Filoni should do when Rebels is over. Is just make a cartoon series about Dash Rendar, and then do the whole Shadows of the Empire story in there.
It would be so good.
And he's the man to do it for reals, though, too.
Yeah.
So, anyways, that's all I have to say about that.
Yeah, that's fair. I'll give productive members of chat one more opportunity to let out questions and whatnot. We've been kind of just rambling on the pontifications thereof, but
Jackie cleaning up the messages there a little bit.
Yeah, right. This is the internet. You can get rid of somebody with one button. I don't know why people get such a kick out of being antagonizing. Doesn't bother me. But whatever. That being said, we are about to wrap up.
Yeah, we're about to wrap up. I'm waiting for like that one more good question.
Yeah, I was like, just someone give me a juicy one. Someone give me a juicy one. So that's.
But I think pretty much everyone has said what they needed to say.
Yeah, right.
So I think that's pretty much we're gonna wrap up. So okay, guys, thank you for watching Video Game Talk. We do this every Thursday night at usually around 6:37 p.m.
Usually
Pacific
right about
time
now-ish.
Yeah, we kind of started a little bit earlier today, which is good, but again, about 6 p.m. ish every Thursday night Pacific time. Hey, let us know in the comments below when this video is published. Do you like what we're doing? Do you just wish we would do it a different day or more days a week? Do you really hate yourself for not subscribing yet to the Star Wars Network YouTube channel? Do you think that Rich Alvarez will ever shut up about it? The answer is no. So go ahead, and when you're done here, if you're not subscribed to the Rich Alvarez channel, subscribe here, hit that bell for notifications, then go find Star Wars Network, subscribe there, hit the bell for notifications. You can find this young gentleman at twitch.tv/complaint department, the complaint department on Twitch. You can find me on random drunk times on twitch.tv/Rich Alvarez Games. And that's about it. That's going to do it for us. I hope you guys have had a good day. Garrett!
That was a lot of words all at once, Richard.
Don't do all those things I said. Don't do them.
Right, man. At least you get the promotion bits out of the way. Yeah, what he said. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.